Welcome to Stop, Drop, and Review. Today we will be talking about The Clan of the Cavebear.
It was an awful film.
Why do you say it was an awful film?
There was almost no speaking. The acting was, and there was now watching it in 2017, there was a rather uncomfortable sexual assault.
All things aside, if we look at it from the standpoint of the 1980s, it was a best-selling book that they turned into a movie.
And that doesn't always work well.
It doesn't always work, but I think in this case it worked decently well to show a story of kind of the primitive versus the civilized.
I did find it, even though there was very little speaking, that was hard to get to. You never felt lost, like you could tell for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
They had and there was some that were, words that they translated. It was a lot of hand gestures. And
they had a nice semi-sophisticated way of sign language.
Yes.
The Neanderthals did.
Yes, because the story, briefly, a girl, I think her name's Ayla.
They call her Ayla.
They call her Ayla because they can't pronounce her name. She loses her family in an earthquake. She's wandering, as a child, this group of Neanderthals. She's a Cro-Magnon.
Mm-hmm.
This group of Neanderthals find her and raise her as their own, although some of them don't like her because she's clearly different, and they kind of have a rivalry with Cro-Magnons, and it's just about her journey. It's a typical hero's journey.
So we look at the hero's journey with Ayla, and we see that when the movie starts, she is orphaned from her family because her family is killed in an earthquake.
And that is her call to adventure.
Mm-hmm.
In the standard circular aspect that the hero's journey takes.
Mm-hmm. So then, as she's going along, she gets hurt, she's starting to starve, she's dehydrated, and she is found by
the Neanderthals.
Mm-hmm, which I would correlate to that as, do you think, the mentor?
I would say one of them, Kree, the shaman, mystic of the group, he becomes her mentor, and his sister. They become her mentors because they're the only ones, because the woman, can't remember her name off the top of my head, she's the medicine woman, and later that becomes a role because she wants to train Ayla to be another medicine woman because she believes the only way Ayla will succeed is she's a strong woman.
Mm-hmm. With status.
Yeah, with status, because since she's not technically a Neanderthal,
they kind of view her as an outsider.
Well, she is an outsider.
Right.
Not only in perception, for their perception, she also is just an outsider. She's trying to fit in, and this woman feels by training her to be a medicine woman, she can accomplish this goal of have high status, and she doesn't have to worry about mating with anyone.
Mm-hmm. And with the hero's journey, she ends up helping them find a new home.
They consider her a good luck charm at one point.
Mm-hmm. And but things turn a little sour when the son
of the leader, he's like Borag.
Well,
This is where the uncomfortable sexual assault scene happens.
She is end up being raped. She is raped.
Not end up. She is
flat.
It's rape.
And later down the line, she gives birth to basically their next heir.
Because she was lucky it was a son. If it had been a daughter, that daughter most likely would have been killed. But since it was a son, and it was the son of the leader, that her son is now the heir to the tribe. Yeah. However, in the end, having a son, because he is the heir, in the end she's in a way forced. She is banished, and she has to leave her son behind, which is different from most ends of the hero's journey.
Well, I see that as the road back home to finding her new journey. I guess they could continue the movie, then show a journey of her finding her own people again.
But I feel her losing her son's kind of flies in the face of that. Yes, she can go back home, but does she really get to go back home? Because part of her is always
part of her home is left,
with her son.
Yes.
So I don't know if you could call it a complete hero's journey. It has many of the aspects, but I feel right at the end there with her not being able to be with her son, it kind of tails off.
Yeah. Another aspect of the film that we were drawing symbolism from
was the primitive versus the civilized.
Yes, indeed.
Because they're a bunch of savages.
So the Neanderthals are the savages, whereas Ayla is the civilized. So with the primitive versus the civilized, we have this whole parallel that you can draw with the time frame where the movie was produced.
It was still in the midst of the Cold War, and yes, the Cold War was winding down, but it was still a tense time. And a big theme of this is the clan of the Cavebear, and often stereotypically Russia, the Soviet Union is associated with the bear,
You know.
and the parallels between like Ayla, she's this fair-skinned, blonde,
Mm-hmm.
idealized American, being forced to work with this group of rugged, kind of scruffy-looking, for lack of a better word, Russians.
And what was interesting too is they used the clan of the Cavebear as in their one clan, and at the time the Soviet was under.
The Soviet Union was a bunch of countries all wrapped up by the Soviet Union. Didn't really have freedom. They were it's technically considered one nation.
The communism.
Yes.
The communism can be drawn parallels with one clan, and then the Soviet Union being under their rule, being under the communist rule.
At some point, I forget where in the movie, she's watching a group of the Neanderthals mess with slingshots and are aiming for this dead tree. In their society, the males, a woman cannot hold a hunting weapon under punishment of death because it is seen as something only men are fit for. But she takes it and uses it. Is actually quite good with it. She is caught with it originally, but he doesn't take it from her. He allows her to keep it, and in a way becomes a symbol of her rebellion and her ability to make her own choices. Because later, at one point, the son, Borid, whatever his name is getting ready to kill her mentor, Kreb, and she uses the slingshot to break his spear. And in doing so, she does this act of defiance. And he goes over to assert his dominance, because that's his whole point throughout the film. He wants to assert his dominance over her. And 2 times he tries to attack her, and both times he fails, and eventually his father steps in and prevents him. But simply by owning that weapon, it gave her power that none of the other women had, because they weren't allowed to have the weapons, weren't allowed to touch them. And I feel it's very interesting that the minute a woman got a hold of a weapon, she immediately used it to put herself on equal footings with the men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's kind of it was definitely present in 1986, it's still present now. Women have to work a lot harder
To get the same status as men, to get
yes,
respected.
even if they're as equally qualified or better, you just don't know, but they have to work for it, and whatever things they can use to accomplish it, they have to latch on to that.
Yeah.
And so those drawing probably parallel with current 1986 gender inequality, because the fact that this film, the whole focus was on a strong woman. Now people always get excited when any main character is a strong female lead, but this was a strong female lead 30 years ago.
If they were talking about the concepts that we're still talking about today.
Which is kind of sad, that you would think 30 years we would have moved on further. That's a debate for a whole other day. As a whole, the film was impactful in its sense of how it was probably ahead of its time in the way in certain ways in the way it portrayed women as being strong and independent, but other ways it lacking by showing a violent sexual assault, which while it still happens, it might have been more acceptable back then for cinema, but now you put that in film and people are
a little appalled. The times have changed, especially also with looking at, in the beginning of the movie, there was a small, what was she, 5?
8-year-old, when she was like maybe 8 years old.
8-year-old girl wandered around aimlessly that was being attacked, and she was
pretty much naked.
Yeah, and so the times have changed with how things are viewed, what is acceptable, what is non-acceptable, and I think that has to go along with
how we view the film, because I feel audience in 1986 probably would have been fine with it, but we're a 2017 audience, and I will admit, watching some of that, I was like,
this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. I don't know if that's what the filmmakers were going for, trying to make it uncomfortable, trying to challenge you and really think about it, or they were just going off the book. And the books
are a little more hardcore.
Yeah, because they can afford, because it's just your imagination.
Exactly.
And it's easier with no pictures. It's not like you have to worry about an audience or.
Yeah. So that was our movie review for Clan of the Cavebear. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.